turn the mic over to you, Myrna and Gloria. This mic is all yours.
Thank God it's Friday.
That's
Right,
right.
right. Go ahead, Myrna.
Hi guys, how's everybody again?
Great,
For the
great.
second time today.
We were just talking about, being enlivened by sharing our thoughts and ideas. So I think
Mm,
all of us here are in a good place and in gratitude and glad
yeah,
to be here. Glad to be here.
yeah, yes. There is something nice about Fridays. Dub just said, thank God it's Friday. Somehow it just, anything before the weekend to me represents rest, relaxation, just the end of the week. There's a saying that for Floridians specifically, and that is every night is Saturday night and every day is Sunday. I love that. I love that phrase because I live in Florida and, anyway. But Fridays are nice, weekends are lovely. So thank you. So Susan is not here with us, and I'm going to be, of course, we're going to be missing her, but I'm sure she's with us in her presence, even though she's not here in her body. She's here with us in spirit. I like to think of that, and to me, that's all truth. We're all together in spirit, aren't we? We're all enlightened beings. Whether we know it or not, we are. We're given the power, the tools to represent that light, that enlightenment. And once we can make it manifest, it becomes enlivened in us and in everyone we see and everyone that we are with. I love to think of the power within us that relates to everyone, the consciousness that is all encompassing, that is all inclusive. To me, it is just so beautiful. It's so representative of God and the beauty that we are facing every single minute of the day. If we choose to see it and feel it, we're privy to it, yet we deny it. We were speaking earlier about the ego, and the ego is so intrusive and so malfunctioning when we think about that, when it's so hard for us to accept a compliment or to accept the fact that people do love us. We immediately deny that. It's funny how I've got the capacity to feel great love. I know that for everyone else, and yet I don't always feel it for myself. And of course, that's the ego, showing its ugliness when it can deny me, when I can feel such grace when it comes to everyone else. But it's okay. I still view myself as a very lucky, fortunate person, as we all are, just to be here, to share with one another, to be in the presence of one another's holiness, because we're all holy. We're all holy beings, and nothing can intrude upon that. Dove gave us this lesson 30, I think it was 38, which I also love. There is nothing my holiness cannot do. And I think that when we see ourselves as holy, when we really can accept that, then we realize we're all powerful. We're given the power to share and to love and to be who as we really are. What do you have to say about that, Gloria?
It was just beautiful sharing and a wonderful opening. And I love everything that you said and the idea of being in joy. I think Susan would absolutely love that since that's what her book is, Surrender to Joy. And
Mhm.
that's, I think what we're always talking about, surrendering that ego, being willing to surrender it and then join in the joy as we were created. So you can only experience joy if we accept what we are in truth. And yes, there's that one consciousness that we all share in. So no one's ever separate. If there's one consciousness, one power, one God. That's all there is. So that's our job here to recognize that beyond all the concepts, is the light, the one light, the truth of what we are in our being. And what you said about choice, that's the whole power. That's so empowering, that recognition that we're making the choice. So we can choose for love. And Jesus tells us God's will for you is perfect happiness. We can't be happy if we have not accepted the love that I am. That is happiness. There's no happiness found in an illusion where you trade in one illusion for another illusion. And it's even if you are happy for some time, you think you're happy, it's a temporary thing. What we're looking for is the experience of the permanence of the oneness of the love of God, that impersonal love of God in which we all share. So, you mentioned something, and I think sometimes, yeah, we are hardest on our own self, and we'll forgive everyone, but we criticize and judge ourselves, and that is really important to recognize that that's what we are doing, because even if we're just saying, oh, that wasn't nice, whatever, we're criticizing and judging ourselves. But we're always criticizing and judging something. That's why Jesus is telling we're always forgiving ourselves. Forgive us our illusions, Father, and help us to accept our true relationship with you. That's the only thing we need. That could be the entire course, because we're always forgiving ourselves for our false projections, and we're criticizing and judging so that the ego can preserve its life of separation, which is criticism, judgment, fear, guilt, condemnation. So that's what the ego is, and it's trying to keep itself alive. So we wander into the temptation of judgment, of judging ourselves as something that we are not. And you brought up holiness. And if we recognize it, what does that word really say to us? Holiness is the experience of our oneness. What else could holiness be? Blessing is that willingness to accept what I am and make no demands, make no judgments, no projections. So when we recognize that I am holy, I am the Holy Son of God, I am God's one son, one child, one manifestation of love. And the recognition also that every single encounter that we have here, Jesus tells us to make that a holy encounter. That means an encounter, a joining in the oneness of what I am. We can only join in the oneness of what I am if we accept it, because giving and receiving are one in truth. We cannot give, we cannot offer what we have not accepted for ourselves. That's what I got. Thank you, Myrna.
Thank you. Wow, that was great. You had asked me if I had a particular lesson that I liked, and I said yes. I mean, I love all the lessons, every one of them. But lesson 93 always stays with me, because I think that was the first lesson in the Course in Miracles that really made me face the truth. It was almost as if it was so touching that it caused me to cry. um, you know, and I still find it that way. It is that light and joy and peace abide in me. And the first sentence really jumped out at me, where it says, "You think you are the home of evil, darkness, and sin. You think that if anyone could see the truth about you, he would be repelled, recoiling from you as if from a poisonous snake. You think if what is true about if you think if what is true about you were revealed to you, you would be struck with horror so intense you would rush to death by your own hand, living on after seeing this being impossible." And it goes on to say that, everything you think about yourself is an illusion. And that made me realize that, I supposed, most of the pain that I had been experiencing in life was just, I think, because I couldn't accept my holiness or my oneness, as you just put it, Gloria. And that holiness is the experience of our oneness, the experience of our oneness. And I think that was the first time that I was able to understand what oneness was, what I could really relate to in regard to oneness, that we are here learn that we're here to accept our faults and to forgive ourselves our faults because they're nothing more than illusions. And all of this was brought to me in this particular lesson, particularly. And it was sort of an awakening. It was a true awakening for me. And to be awakened is to simply understand and know who we are and what we're capable of, and how our joining with our brothers is everything. It is the manifestation of the love that we're given to feel, because that's all we really are anyway. And anything that we condemn ourselves for is nothing more than folly. That's all it is. And it really took this particular lesson for me to see that. And and it just goes on to tell us that that everything is so foolish. What you think is so foolish. And think of all the suffering that we endure at the hands of foolishness. And it's all based on nothing. So the joy is to awaken to the truth, to the love um, that is all encompassing. So is that right, Florian?
Yeah, beautifully expressed, Myrna. And yeah, I was thinking about what the first paragraph says. This is what the ego wants you to believe.
Mhm.
And again, it's to me, it's always important to recognize there's one ego, one Christ mind, that we all share this. So whatever projections of fear that we're seeing, it's part of that universal mesmerism. So the idea is if come to the place where we recognize that if I'm seeing my brother in any way other than what he is, it's universal malpractice. It's the one ego mind projecting fear and guilt out there, which is whatever word we want to use, a universal malpractice, a universal hypnotism, a universal mesmerism, or the universal illusion, as Jesus tells us in the Course. So light and peace and joy abide in me. Light. What is light? Let's think about that. Light is true understanding, but not with the perceptual mind. It's an experience. It's the recognition of all that there is. The light beyond the concept is the recognition of the oneness of God that we all share. Peace and joy. Peace is also what I am. Joy is what I am, but it's not of the world. There is no peace and joy in the illusion. The illusion is meant to separate. It's meant to keep us apart from the realization of what we are in truth. So light and peace and joy, once we accept the fact that that is what I am, nothing else can ever be in opposition to it. So I think this is a really important lesson to to remember that, and what you, again, we're going to look at what I am, not the ego, what I am in truth. And that's what we're being asked to remember. And all we have to do is remember because we've never left that. So if we move down to paragraph 4, where he says, why would you not be overjoyed to be assured that all the evil that you think you did was never done? None of this ever happened. It's a misperception happening in the false mind. We've never left God. We're at home in God, at rest right now. And all there is that eternal now, the holy instant, meaning that instant where we join in oneness, the oneness that I am, the holy in instant. That all your sins are nothing, nothing but mistakes that need to be corrected. That you are as pure and holy as you were created. Now, the ego, we know, is not pure. The ego is not one because it is the split. The ego can't possibly be as God created us because he created us in love and oneness. And what the ego is separation. And that light and joy and peace abide in you, in not in your body, but in the consciousness of what you are in truth. because there are no bodies and there are no images. Your image of yourself, which is a mistaken belief, cannot withstand the will of God. What is the will of God? What is the law of God? The acceptance of what I am in truth. Spirit, eternal spirit, limitless in power and in peace. You think that this is death, but it is life, because the ego looks at it as the annihilation of itself. But it's life because the ego is death, and true life is the acceptance of the Christ as I am. You think you are destroyed. The image might be destroyed, but the image is not you. So there's your salvation. I and the Father are one. I am one self united with my Creator. And he goes on, and then I'll just read the next paragraph and then I'll let you go, Myrna. The self you made is not the Son of God. The body is not the Son of God. It's an image. It is a fearful projection from imagination. That's why it disintegrates, because it's not real. It's an image. Therefore, this self does not exist at all. It's based upon the projection of misperception. It's not reality. And anything it seems to do and think means nothing. We give everything all the meaning it has for us. So if we're finding meaning in something here on the illusion, there's no meaning at all, because it's based upon that false identification of self. It's the projection of fear and guilt. It's the idea of scarcity and lack that we're seeing out there. But we're giving it all the meaning it has for us, and we can change our mind about it. It's neither good nor bad. It's a neutral thing. It is unreal and nothing more than that. It doesn't even exist. This world doesn't exist. This body does not exist. It does not battle with the Son of God. It can't stand up to the Son of God, because the Son of God is infinity. The Son of God is eternal life. Nothing can ever go against that. Nothing can ever break it. It does not hurt him, nor attack his peace. Nothing could attack ourselves as we were created. It has not changed creation. And what were we created as? Love. And we're here to be extensions of that love within this world. Nor reduced eternal sinlessness to sin and love to hate. So this is what we are: creation, love, eternal sinlessness, innocent, guiltless sons and daughters of God. The love to hate. I was created in love, and it can never, ever be changed. Might think it can, but it'll never have effect on the reality of what we are. What power can this self you made possess? Absolutely none. There's only one power, one consciousness, one Christ mind, when it would contradict the will of God. So what can go against God? God's will is what I am. So we just merely have to accept it. Right, Myrna?
Yes, I love that you really went in depth into this lesson, because, as I said, this is my favorite lesson. So you really kind of completely went into it and explained it so thoroughly and beautifully. And I just loved hearing every word of it. You read, why would you not be overjoyed to be assured that all the evil you think you did was never done? Why would we not be overjoyed? Why would we not be so free from that alone, from that one sentence alone, to know that we are so released, we are so completely, released from the evils and the havoc that we create in our own life. And it was very touching to know. It's all of this is very, very healing. It's a healing lesson for me. I go on to paragraph number 5. The self you made is not the Son of God. Therefore, this self does not exist at all. And you said that just now so beautifully, that it's an illusion, that we just, it's none of it's real. None of it is real. And we have to keep impressing upon ourselves that it's not real. And what is real is what we really have to pay attention to, and to know the difference between what is real and what isn't. And and you also said there is no bad or good. yeah, I think Shakespeare figured that out a few centuries ago when he said, "There is no bad or good, only your thinking makes it so." And to me, that also stays with me because our thoughts create everything that we are, our thoughts alone. And so, where the Course in Miracles says we need to purify our thoughts, that means we need to, and before we can experience peace and experience the love of God, we have to purify. And I've come to understand what that means as well, because that is to absolve ourselves completely of all the, the things or the sins that we think that we've done that we had not done. And it's only the ego's thought system that creates that illusion of ourself and everyone else. I think that once we've have the power to forgive our brothers, we certainly can forgive ourselves as well. And that's so important to know that forgiveness is so much a part of the Course in Miracles and so much a part of the healing that we're given to we're given to recognize that forgiveness is really just about the whole crux of it all. The forgiveness is what really brings us to the to the part of us that is now clear to pave our way to God and to the love of God, because it's the lack of forgiveness, the grievances that hold us back, that we carry through our lifetime. And when we learn to just give it up, recognizing that it really is based on nothing, and all the power that we've given it is really our own thought system. And we can relinquish ourselves from that, as the lesson so clearly states. So I just love the way you had explained it. And it made me realize, yes, it is an illusion. It is nothing. And when I'm feeling when a thought comes to me that jolts me back to the ego's thinking, I'm quick to understand what just happened. So all of this is so helpful, and all this sharing is so wonderful. Thank you, Gloria. Go ahead.
Thank you, Myrna. I love everything that you shared. And it is, it's wonderful. This is what we align our mind with the Christ and we reflect that love of God back and forth to each other. So it's very important to remember that, there's one ego, there's one Christ mind, there's total equality. There's total equality. There's total sameness. If we're in the mistaken thought system, it's the same. If we're in the Christ mind, there's only one. So we're never separate from a brother. A brother is showing us exactly what we think, and therefore it's a gift. It's just a total gift. And I love what you shared about good and bad and all that. The whole idea is the attachment to either good or bad is detrimental to the experience of what I am in truth. And that's what we want to recognize, that I don't know what anything is for. Everything's totally neutral unless I place my meaning upon it. I can escape from the world I see by giving up attack thoughts. The Course is just so beautiful because it's so circular, and all of these thoughts and ideas just come together when we apply them. And what we're willing to do is surrender what we think and allow grace to make that reinterpretation for us. So as you said, purifying, and he tells us, I think it's 7, maybe principle miracles, principle 7, that everyone is entitled, and these are not the exact words, but purification is necessary first. But what is purification? The ego cannot purify itself. So acquired learning will never ever take us there. The idea is that ego needs to be surrendered and allow the Holy Spirit to do that purification for us. And how is it done? We move from false perception through our willingness to accept true perception and allow the Holy Spirit to lead and guide and direct our lives. That's the purification. We can't do it. We have to surrender what we think we are and allow the grace of God to come forth and make those crooked places straight. You mentioned I forget what was coming to me, something about changing. And the idea is that's maybe it's here in the lesson. I'll have to look at that. But we really want to move into that changeless dwelling place. So let's go back to this then. Your sinlessness is guaranteed by God. Sinlessness, innocence, guiltlessness. That's the entire recognition of what I am is what is all there is. That acceptance of that changeless dwelling place. Over and over, this must be repeated until it is accepted. So we go deeper and deeper. We move with these words. We take them into contemplative meditation and allow the Spirit of God to impart their meaning to us through experience. We don't want to intellectualize what this is saying. We want to allow the sinlessness, the innocence, the guiltlessness of what I am as I was created to be imparted to us, to be revealed to us in the experience of what I truly am. So he says, repeated until it is accepted. It is true. It is the truth. This is what I am. This is what everyone is. So beyond those concepts, we're being asked to recognize the face of Christ, the innocence, guiltlessness, sinlessness, which brings us into that recognition of sameness and true equality, which is the changeless dwelling place. Your sinlessness is guaranteed by God. Nothing can touch it. Nothing can ever affect what I am or change. There's change what God created as eternal, eternal life, that infinite, invisible. I am presence. I am everywhere, and everywhere is here now. We just have to realize it, and nothing can have any effect upon that. The self you made, evil and full of sin, is meaningless. Your sinlessness is guaranteed by God, and light and joy and peace abide in you, not in your body, which is a false concept, a projection of sin, but in the Christ consciousness that I am, that is forever one. Salvation requires the acceptance of but one thought. You are as God created you. Salvation comes from my one self united with my Creator. We can't think this. It has to become our experience. So we are as God created us, not what you made of yourself, the projection of fear and guilt, the image of the body, whatever evil you may think you did. You are as God created you. It's meaningless. It has no effect. Whatever mistakes you made, the truth about you is unchanged. I knew there had to be something about a change. I knew changed was in here somewhere. So that's what he's saying. Whatever mistakes, false ideas, false beliefs you made, the truth about you is unchanged. So whatever sin we think there is a mistaken belief that merely needs correction. Creation is eternal. Love is eternal. And that is what I am, unalterable. Your sinlessness is guaranteed by God. You are and will forever be exactly as you were created. Wow. This can't be intellectualized. We have to move into the contemplative meditation where we realize these words to be true. Light and joy and peace abide in you because God put them there. And there's no other will except the will of God. And you spoke about forgiveness. And when we recognize that forgiveness is really the willingness to not judge, to not be in judgment of anything, but ultimately to be in judgment of ourselves. And that's why he says we're always forgiving ourselves, our illusion, because the illusions stem from the judgment of the acceptance of the false mind. Thanks so much.
That was great. Great. You used the sentence, my sinlessness is guaranteed by God, a couple of times. And that is, to me, that is a phrase that I could meditate on and I could get lost in just that phrase alone. When you think about it, think about it. My sinlessness is guaranteed by God. I mean, what greater promise could we have? What could be more healing than that alone? To understand that my sinlessness is understood by God. And that's why there is never anything to worry about or anything to fear. God is guaranteeing my wholeness, that anything that I'm fearful of is really can just disappear in the face of this sentence alone. I just pick a phrase and I can literally become immersed in it because it's so powerful. That alone is such a powerful sentence. You know, it aligns us with God. It does give us the power to connect with the Christ mind that is all encompassing. There's nothing but the Christ mind. That is complete consciousness, complete awareness, complete wholeness, because it is such a forgiving um, part of us. It is a part of us that nothing can touch. It is just completely unmarred by anything that we could imagine. And to me, that is, I could go on and on with that. I could just close my eyes and just feel that wonderful love that comes from those words alone. That God is guaranteeing that I am a holy entity of Him, and I could never be anything less. I could never experience anything less than that, because it is all that I am. It is so completely releasing and loving and completely enduring, and there's nothing to fear. There's just nothing to cause me to worry or to ever think anything less of myself. And in not thinking less of myself, how can I think less of anybody else? How can I not? How can I think that my brothers are not as holy as I am? That we're all together in this loving atmosphere of of everything there is to feel. And I really just feel so completely illuminated, especially at this moment right now, just looking at all the faces that I'm looking at. And I'm speaking to all the faces right now that I'm seeing. I'm seeing Robert's face, and I'm looking at him, and Dove and Lynn, and I don't see your glorious face, but I certainly feel your presence and feel your holiness. And I connect to that so completely. And I'm so glad I was given the opportunity to express that with you today, because it is so, to me, complete joy. You could not have given me a more joyful afternoon, I must say. So thank you. Anyway, I turn it back to you.
Wow, I love you so much. And the whole idea is the reason we're connected is because we're recognizing each other as we truly are, which is as one. So, yeah, I love everything that you shared, Myrna. And if we look at that, our sinlessness is guaranteed by God. That's the idea. We take this into contemplative meditation where we experience it. We move into the and it can only happen by grace where it's imparted to us that realization in uplifted consciousness of what I am. It's beyond words and thoughts, and it's an experience. But if we recognize our innocence, sinlessness, and guiltlessness, what that's why I'm worthy. That's why I'm worthy, because oh, we wouldn't be worthy if we were not that, because there's something other than complete oneness and beauty and innocence and love and grace and wholeness and joy. But we are worthy because we are that. And the only reason we wouldn't think that we were worthy is because we have identified mistakenly with the false mind. And what you said is, as far as moving into contemplation, that's what he goes on to do, say here in the lesson. And I really do believe this is very important. The first 5 minutes of every waking hour. I do this with every lesson, but he's telling us to do it here. It's so important to take that break. Even if you can't give the full 5 minutes to it, we're touching base with the reality of what we are in truth. We're choosing to remember, okay, crazy might be going on, but first 5 minutes of every hour, I'm giving to the acknowledgement of what I am and how I was created. I'm giving that to God to guide my way. So he tells us, light and joy and peace abide in me. My sinlessness is guaranteed by God. Then put away your foolish self-images. Let it go. surrender the ego, and spend the rest of the practice period in trying to experience what God has given you in place of what you have decreed for yourself. So that's everything that we were saying. You are what God created, or what are you what God created, or what you made? Well, we certainly don't want what we made. We'll definitely accept ourselves as God created it and accept the will of God for ourselves. One self is true, the other is not there. It's an image, it's a false identification. It's not real. There are no bodies and there is no world. And, that's the whole idea too, where we can recognize, that consciousness is not within a body, that everything's contained within that mind of God. Try to experience the unity of your one self. Try to appreciate its holiness, its oneness, and the love from which it was created. And again, he's talking about experience, not thought. Try not to interfere with the self which God created as you by hiding its majesty behind the tiny idols of evil and sinfulness that you have made to replace it. So where he says, and this lesson's coming to me again and again, let all things be as they are. And if we can take that on this level of the world, where we could say, I'm going to accept what is. I'm going to surrender the ego. I'm going to surrender control and let all things be as they are. And I can take that to the higher level where I recognize, as what he's saying here, the majesty, that grace and majesty and love is all that's real, unless I project my self-limiting beliefs upon what upon it to obscure it from my awareness. That's all that is. So that's what he's saying. By hiding its majesty behind the tiny idols of evil and sinfulness you have made to replace it, let it come into its own. Let it come, the Spirit of God, come into its own. Receive that as the oneness of what I am. Here you are. This is you, and light and joy and peace abide in you, because this is so. And so it is. And why is it so? Because it's God's will. So I'm going to turn it back to you, Myrna.
Hey, that was really good. That was really very helpful in connecting me to the thought, that my sinlessness is guaranteed by God, and that connects me. In fact, it's funny that Dub mentioned lesson 38, because I turned to it, and I see how close this lesson parallels to the 93 lesson about my sinlessness being guaranteed by God, because here it says, there is nothing my holiness cannot do. And that really is a another way of just extending, the truth. Nothing my holiness cannot do. And what is it that I want my holiness to do? Thinking about that, there's nothing that my holiness cannot do. And when I think of that, I think that in just acknowledging my holiness within myself, I see it in all my brothers and sisters. I see it in the vastness of creation. Holiness is everything. And when you're given the power of holiness that God shares his holiness, then how can we not be all powerful beings? Because if we're accepting what God is giving us to share, which is his holiness, and he's making us as holy as he is, just by the very fact that he shows us that we're everything, that we're not apart from him, that we are completely connected to the virtues of all that is given to us to feel, everything, and that it is so completely powerful. And to me, what do I want my holiness to do? I want it to bring me peace. That's what I want. I want nothing more than peace. And this is what I strive for. And when we can acknowledge ourselves as holy and see the everyone within that holy holy vastness, I guess. I'm trying to grope for the word of how I can expand that, and how can I expand everybody to include everybody in that vastness, in that completeness. And when I realize and see that it's all one consciousness, one holiness, one being, that we are, that we are given to experience, then there's nothing complicated. It seems so simple when I think of it in that way, because it's only one truth, one love, oneness. And within that oneness, with the expansiveness of all there is, then there's nothing else to really become. I mean, there's nothing, everything else is an illusion. Everything outside of that is illusory. So it gives me the power to understand that through my holiness, the power of God is manifested. And then, there's nothing that my power cannot do. So that is so comforting, and it's healing, and it certainly gives me recognition that all that I am is all that I'm given to be, and that's all I need to be. And I recognize that too, that the world is really part of me. I'm in the world. I'm not of the world. In the world is where I share everything with my brothers and sisters. So anyway, I give it back to you.
Thank you, Myrna. Wow, I just love everything that you shared. Spirit of my limitless in power and peace. And that's what we have to get. That's our purpose, is the realization of oneness. And that there's nothing other than oneness. Accepting our holiness, our oneness is my peace, as Jesus said. There's no peace in this world. We don't want, I want the peace of God, but no, we don't want that thinking. That's what it is. We'll say, I want the peace of God, but I want the war to stop, or I want this to happen. So we get to that place where we recognize my peace comes through the acceptance of what I am, through the realization of oneness, which is, I think the word you were looking for is universal oneness. The universal oneness, the oneness that extends everywhere. I am everywhere, and everywhere is here now. That recognition of where I stand is holy ground. In this moment, in this holy instant, is where it is, where it is, God is expressing as I am in this eternal now moment. So the universal oneness is, we recognize that's not, has nothing to do with planets and all that. Universe. We think of universe, we think of planets. Those are all still projected images. The universal oneness that we share is that light, that which we said before, light is understanding, the experience of that oneness beyond these seeming concepts, beyond all concepts which do not exist, because all concepts are a projection of associating with the fearful mind. So he tells us how to remedy this and how to use this lesson. If a situation arises that seems to be disturbing, which it's going to do, because we're going to wander into temptation, because every single thought is a judgment that keeps us separate. Every single thought, good, bad, right, wrong, all of that is what has us wandering into the temptation. Every thought is a judgment. Every thought separates us from our oneness. So that will happen. And that's the false perception for which we want to be willing to move into true perception. So he says, if a situation arises that seems to be disturbing, quickly dispel the illusion of fear by repeating these thoughts again. Should you be tempted to become angry with someone, tell him silently, light and peace and joy abide in you. Light, joy, and peace abide in you. Your sinlessness is guaranteed by God. So let's say here also, should you be tempted to become angry with someone, which is the ego, the one ego. So Jesus tells us anger and fear is never justified, but it's not justified if we're in that experience of what I am, if we're in truth. But it is justified to the ego because that is what the ego is: anger, fear, guilt, separation. So we have to recognize we're tempted with the ego, but we're going to change our mind about it. We're willing to look at it differently and accept that light and joy and peace abide in you. Your sinlessness is guaranteed by God, and we can't recognize that unless we accept it for ourselves, because giving and receiving are one in truth. And he tells us, you can do much for the world's salvation today. You can do much today to bring you closer to the part in salvation that God has assigned to you. And you can do much today to bring the conviction to your mind that the idea for today is true indeed. So the world's salvation comes when we accept salvation for ourselves, because this seeming world only exists as in our alignment with the false mind through the projection of guilt and fear, which is not our reality. So if we accept what we are in truth, there's no more projection. And that's how we save the world. You can do much today to bring you closer to the part in salvation that God has assigned to you. So God created us in his likeness, and we're here to be extensions of that love in this world. And we can also only do that if we accept salvation of what I am for ourselves. And you can do much today to bring the conviction to your mind that the idea for today is true indeed. And as we practice this, we feel the conviction of it because it works. Truth will correct all errors in my mind. And the only thing I need to do is accept that truth. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. You mentioned wandering into temptation. So, yeah, don't we all do that? Don't we wander into temptation? The ego. You talk about the ego. I'd like to talk about the ego because that's the other part of me. I talked about holiness and peace and God consciousness and the Christ mind and all that. But, the alter ego it's what it is, the ego. And, we were discussing a little earlier about, how the ego sometimes does tempt us, and it makes us not feel worthy. And I was expressing something that I was feeling this past weekend. I had gone to a wedding, and my daughter told me somebody had given me a nice compliment. And my first thought was to say, people are just trying to be nice. They're just trying to be nice. I couldn't accept the compliment. I couldn't accept myself as that was the truth about me. Why couldn't I accept that? And I understood then that wow, that's what the ego does. I said, oh, well, I didn't understand it quickly enough, I suppose, because that was my first reaction. But the idea is to kind of dispel those illusions when they come up, and they come up all the time. I mean, the ego is not going to allow us just to enjoy the wholeness and the peace of God, because that's really the best place to be. I mean, who wouldn't want to be in that place all the time? But the ego is not about to give us that, that grace that we really are entitled to. And things come up every day. And as you said, quickly state an affirmation when that happens. And sometimes I forget to do that, because affirmations in themselves are very powerful. They do lighten the burden, and there's no question about that. When I'm really feeling, getting that depressed feeling, which comes upon me at times. I'm not saying I'm completely void of it. Yes, I am subject to it at times, but I do find that the affirmations do work. It does get me out of that melting pot, that is not really who I am. And to say light and joy and peace abide in me, when I can really focus on that, I recognize that's all there is anyway. So why am I feeling bad, or why am I feeling sad, or why am I feeling depressed? But I guess it's a lifelong journey, really, to stay on the path, to see that we are given that truth to to learn of the truth about who we are, to learn that truth. That's what we're here to do. I understand that completely, that this is probably the best place to learn it also because of all the emotions that come up that conflict with who we truly are. So if we can learn to dispel that and really understand that it's all about becoming consistently aware, consistently peaceful. And that does take work. It really does. It does take work. It takes. This morning I meditated. I mean, I have not meditated, and I said to myself, why don't I meditate? Why don't I do it more often? It just gave me such it cleared my mind. It gave me, the best word I like to use is illumination, because suddenly I feel that light within. And I did feel that this morning, and I vowed that I was going to meditate more often, much more, maybe every day if I can. Anyway, so I turn it back to you, Gloria.
Wow, that's beautiful, Myrna. And yeah, illumination dissolves all material ties
Mhm,
and
mhm,
binds us together with chains of understanding, chains of light, which is
mhm,
under truth, understanding of
mhm,
what we are and being. Um, Yeah, I love everything you said. And about affirmations, that's like bringing us back. So even if we use an affirmation to bring us back, and then of course recognize that, okay, we're going to look at what's going on. We're going to wait, make the space, make that pause, and ask spirit to reinterpret it. And through that, there's our willingness to not judge it, the willingness to forgive it, so it just takes that little bit of willingness to make another choice, to be willing to let go of that false ego perception and allow true perception to come in, make that reinterpretation and purify our mind. And in that prayer, he says, let us not wander into temptation. And I like the words let us. It's used in the course like I think over 400 times. But when he's saying let us, it's pointing to our willingness. Let's allow ourselves to no longer wander into temptation, because that's the whole point. If we're not wandering into temptation, we're resting in the love of God. We're resting in what I am as I was created, accepting our holiness and accepting ourselves as that eternal light of God, which is what I am, spirit. I was thinking, Myrna, if it's all right, I was gonna read quickly today's lesson because it
mhm.
ties in beautifully with what we were doing, and then I'll hand it back to you to close. Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah, please.
So Jesus tells us today in lesson 2, 3, 4, Father, today I am your son again. Just what we were talking about. Father, today I am your son again. Today, we will anticipate the time when dreams of sin and guilt are gone, and we have reached the holy peace we never left. Merely a tiny instant has elapsed between eternity and timelessness. So brief the interval, there was no lapse in continuity nor break in thoughts which are forever unified as one. Nothing has ever happened to disturb the peace of God, the Father and the Son. This we accept as wholly true today. We thank you, Father, that we cannot lose the memory of you. We thank you, Father, that we cannot lose the memory of you and your love. We recognize our safety and give thanks for all the gifts you have bestowed on us, for all the loving help we have received, for your eternal patience, and the word which you have given us that we are saved. And so it is. Amen. Back to you, Myrna. Thanks for a
Thank
wonderful.
you. Yes, yes. I love that. Yeah. Father, today I am your son again. I'm going to read from my own private lessons with Jesus.
Perfect.
The lesson 234, as I felt it when I was writing it. Today, your Father invites you to come and share his love. Do not turn away because your thoughts are not in sync with peace. Life is a continual ebb and flow between disturbance and serenity. The ebb is ego vying for your attention, and the flow is spirit offering you refuge in a quiet, peaceful place. Spirit waits quietly while the ego attempts to shout loudly from every corner of your mind. Your soul is quiet because it needs to be free from assault, so it stays pure as it awaits your return to its place of harmony. Your soul is in holy territory and it cannot be violated. Come to its quiet serenity and feel safe from worldly intrusions. When you sink into the deepest part of yourself, do you not see a difference? Moments ago, you were in doubt as to whether this was the time to retreat into communion with God. But as you focused deeply, you immediately felt the warmth of his welcome and forgot the ego's discord. Come to God anytime you wish. Do not fear that the time might not be right in moments of unsettledness. The time is always right. Whenever you choose to sink into the comfort of his love, do not hesitate even for a second. God sees you as his peace, as his perfect peace. God sees you as his perfect creation. And so this is what you are. I think what I questioned when I did this lesson was I was not feeling peaceful. Okay. And I didn't know if it was really a good time to talk to God. I was feeling all kinds of ego thoughts. And this is what really, I think, motivated this lesson. I felt so comforted when you come to God anytime, even if you're feeling lousy, the time is always right. And so this was, I remember now that I read it, I do remember what I was feeling anyway.
That was beautiful, Myrna. And
Thank
that's
you.
it. It's such a relief when we're willing to turn it over to spirit.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
liberation.
But that was a very important thing for me because there was a time that I didn't want to talk to God because I didn't think God would want to talk to me because I was not feeling peaceful. And I was sort of, kind of turning away when I came to realize that always go to God. I mean, that's the only place to go. And the comfort that you can feel from it is just unparalleled.
Beautiful. It
Yeah.
is. It works when we let it work through us.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you. Thank you, everyone. And see you next time.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Thanks,
Bye, everyone.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, you guys. I love you all. See you in the morning. I'm going to go ahead and close out the YouTube.